Moving on to the last part of this unit, we're going to quickly go over some fraud awareness and some terms to know. So firstly, for fraud awareness, the first kind of rule of thumb when it comes to fraud is if it's too good to be true, it most likely is. Now, this is a phrase we probably all heard it throughout our life, told by our parents and other trusted adults, and this is honestly super true. Nowadays, one of the most common scams and fraud schemes is going to be anything kind of related to CERB. We'll go more over that in a bit. Now, mostly a lot of these schemes are online. They're going to be in the form of an email, whether it's a text. They're going to come in these forms, and they're pretty hard to distinguish whether it's real or not. But as we go by like the first rule, if it's too good to be true, it most likely is. Now, we are protected a tiny bit from our financial institutions, but most likely if it's, you click the link on an email that you shouldn't have and you get, $1,000 taken out of your bank account, that's all you have, most likely you're not going to get that money back. Now, if it's scammed through like a website and you put your credit card in, and then they, instead of charging you $30, they charge you $1,000, you'd be protected there because you made the purchase through a credit card, and there's security measures put in place in order to prevent fraud with the credit card. But with a traditional bank account, there isn't too much that they can do to help you out. Now, a quick statistic from January 2014 to December 2017, Canadians lost more than $405 million to fraudsters. Now, based on these two dates, we can see that this was not yet when CERB, was around. So if we talk about CERB and EI and how it's kind of been used last 2 years during the pandemic, we can definitely estimate that this number, when it's updated next year, could be close to $1 billion. Now, what are some of the fraud schemes that we've all heard of? I think one of the most popular one is the Nigerian prince. Now, which this one is you kind of get an email or a text message basically saying that if you send them $1,000, they'll send you $1 million of their riches. It's just hard for them to move their money around because, they don't have online banking and so on. Now, something like that, obviously, you can just use the first rule of thumb from fraud, and if it's too good to be true, it most likely is. You sending someone $1,000 for them to send you millions of their riches just doesn't sound right. It sounds off. Now, unfortunately, some people have fallen for this, but if you do use, the one rule of thumb that's too good to be true, most likely is, you can really, stay ahead of most fraud situations. Now we're going to move on to some terms to know. First, I'll talk about credit. Now, credit is the amount of money a creditor is willing to loan in order to purchase goods and services based on the expectation the money will be repaid as promised with interest. Now, examples of credit could be anything from a credit card, car loan, a mortgage, basically any type of loan. Saving. The process of setting income aside for future spending. Saving provides ready cash for emergencies and short-term goals and fund for investments. Interest. Now, it's important to make sure that we have two types of interest. We'll go over both. Interest, the additional amount of money you'll pay to a lending institution to borrow money. That's the bad type of interest because, you're paying to borrow money. Now, for the good kind, in terms of saving, interest is the additional amount you will earn for having your money in a bank account or other saving vehicle. Now we have credit limit. The maximum amount of credit a lender is willing to extend to a customer. Now, example could be a credit card. When you first get a credit card, you're most likely to get a limit from $500 to $1,000. Let's say you get $500. The most you can use in that credit card is $500. Mutual funds. A professionally managed collection of money from a group of investors. A mutual fund manager invests your money in some combination of various stocks, bonds, and other products. Now, not principal guaranteed. So this is more of a medium to high risk investment. Then we have a GIC, a guaranteed investment certificate, an investment that offers a guaranteed rate of return over a fixed period of time, most commonly issued by banks. This is a low to moderate risk investment. You're guaranteed a specific rate of return no matter how long. So it can be like you're guaranteed an 8% return. No matter if the economy is going really well or doing really bad, you'll get that 8% no matter what. Our last two terms are direct investing, self-managed investments that you control on your own. This is the type of investing and popular among millennials and Gen Z as it allows individuals to be more independent. Direct investing allows people with expertise to purchase and sell their own shares of their own. Then we have credit score, a numerical representation of an individual's history and capacity of receiving new credit. This ranges from 300, 900, and 600 is the minimum considered for more top banks. We'll learn more about credit score, and the bad type of interest in the credit workshop. Now, lastly, we have banking milestones. We have 3 milestones. The first one's when you get a job. Now, when you get your first job, you're going to need a bank account to store your paycheck. Then, when you have a child, you're going to start planning for their future, whether that's an account to save up for their further education or setting them up with a bank account. Lastly, we have unemployed to employed. When you become employed, you're going to need a bank account to put your money in, set aside your savings and your checkings accounts. So that's why it's another milestone.